Hello, and welcome to this episode of Stories with Nidhi Bruce. I'm so happy to have you here. In this episode of the podcast, I'm going to be diving into something that you may have probably heard about a lot if you've been dabbling with the personal development world. It's called higher self. Don't worry, even if you've not heard of this term before, I will explain it to you. But if you have, don't run away either. There may be something you'll find interesting in what I have to say and share. So today I'm going to be talking about accessing your higher self. Like I mentioned before, higher self is a term that is often used in personal development circles or coaching circles, or if you happen to be in the spiritual pathway. But what exactly is the higher self? What is the meaning of higher self? Now, I, as usual, lean towards checking with our dear friend Google about what exactly is the meaning of higher self. And there were so many hits I got for the definition of higher self that I got a little bit boggled myself, because there is a yogic definition of higher self and then there is a contemporary definition of higher self. But here is the thing, there is certainly something called a higher self, and it does pertain to us having a self or a being which is beyond our physical being, and that is our higher self. Now, my definition of higher self, and this is my definition, this has not been taken from anything, but this is my understanding of what it is that the higher self is the purest and highest or best expression of our true selves, unfettered by our current human reality or condition. What does that mean? That means that who we are in our true form and in our best form. So our most expressed form is our higher self. The expressed form, whether or not you believe in a higher source or a greater connection with the outer universe, we do have a form which is completely expressed, completely in tune with our true values, our true being, our true sense of who we are. And this self is connected to a higher source of wisdom or of thinking or of being. Now, of course, this does step a little bit into the realm of spirituality. However, I think that wherever we are on our pathways, we can agree that sometimes in our lives, in situations which call upon us to show up as our higher selves, we have expressed ourselves listening to our higher selves or actually being our higher self. This may be sometimes, in the case of sudden emergencies in our business or in our family life. Have you ever found yourself acting as someone you had always wished you could have, but never did because circumstances never called upon you to be that or do that? But you found yourself being something that you just, at the back of your mind, imagined that you were capable of being. So that is one way that the higher self sometimes shows up in our daily lives. And it may sound like it is, oh wow, the higher self only expresses itself fully when we are under extreme stress or duress or really called upon to do it, right? When the spotlight is shining upon us and there's too much pressure, that's when the higher self shows up. That's not what I'm trying to say, so please take that thought away from your mind. What I'm saying is that the higher self is available to us on a daily basis, on a minute-by-minute basis if you feel like it. But the truth is, we as physical beings, physical inhabitants of this earth, are so caught up in the minutiae of the everyday, the stresses, the attention grabbers, the beliefs that bind us down. This is all what really loads us down in our everyday life, in our everyday being, right? Um, that we don't really access our higher self. We don't feel the need to, first of all. Secondly, we don't feel like we have the energy to sit still and access the higher self. But here is the thing, what is the point of having a higher self if you can't access it? That is my understanding. So, the first time that I heard of the concept of accessing the higher self, I was like, wow, this is amazing. And the way it happened for me is that I was in this program and there was a coach leading it, and he took us through a meditation to access a higher self. And after the meditation, of course, after I had accessed my higher self and after, the world had opened up and I realized what all or who I am and what all I'm capable of, I was like, wow, why can I not do this every day? A, because I didn't have access to somebody who would guide me through a meditation to lead me to my higher self every day. And B, because like I just mentioned, we just get so caught up in our everyday lives, right? We're just doing our things, in to-do lists, children, relationships, work, home, things happening around the world, COVID, stuff like that. So, where does one have time to actually sit and access the higher self, right? So these were the two things. And I mean, it's been on the back of my mind. And I was like, we are so much more than we give ourselves credit for. And there has to be a way. There has to be a way that we can access the resources so readily available for us. If the only ask from us is that we need to still ourselves and just allow ourselves to be that, experience that, and access the wisdom of that power, why don't we do it more often? And I realized that it's too much of an ask, right? Whenever we are told that we need to do this, it almost feels like a chore. And anything which pertains to our own ability to develop ourselves, we push it down to the last because other chores, the other to-dos always take precedent, right? No surprises there. So here is the thing. So I just really thought about it and I contemplated about how can I inculcate a practice of, if not accessing, but at least having a kind of a acquaintance with my higher self on a more regular basis. And I realized that it was actually very easy to do it. The first thing that I realized was I was making it into too big of a thing, right? Accessing the higher self does not need to be a big thing. It doesn't require you to be in a quiet room, led by somebody into meditation and then, having some kind of alpha, beta, gamma ray kind of ascension and then going to meet your higher self. It doesn't have to be that complicated at all. So the first thing I did for myself was cut off the complications, and I told myself that my higher self is available for me at every single minute of the day. All I need to do is ask. Yeah, as simple as that. One question. If I'm in the middle of a crisis or of a situation where I'm feeling confused in my human existence, I just take a minute and ask myself, what would my higher self do? What is my higher self saying? And sometimes I frame it as a question, like, higher self, this is what I'm feeling right now. XYZ is troubling me. I'm not sure which path to take. Do I do X or Y or A or B or C? And I wait for a response. Usually, it is in my head, but sometimes our head is so cluttered with thoughts that we need to speak it out loud. So one way to do it is just speak it out loud. Of course, make sure you're not in a crowded place. Otherwise, people around you will think that either you're crazy or you're talking to them and they may just supply their own answers. Or, basically that. So just make sure that you are in a place where you can talk out loud to yourself. But I have a solution for you if you are in a crowded place, where you are in a place where you can't speak it out loud. My favorite method, of course, is to grab a piece of paper and pen and write down a question for your higher self. Literally make it like a questionnaire. This is my question, wait for the answer, write it down. If you have a follow-up question, ask the question to your higher self, wait for the answer, write it down. If you don't have a pen and paper, you can of course use your digital device, your phone, your laptop. I'm sure the higher self doesn't mind which device you're using to get to the answer. The third way is a bit different, but I find it very useful, is to use a mirror. Now, even if you don't have a mirror, again, open your phone and open the camera application, and you can just, use the camera to look into your eyes, like I said, or look at your face. So imagine that the image in the mirror or the camera is your higher self, and you ask them a question and wait for the answer. And like I said, focus on the eyes, right? Don't check if your makeup is right or if your hair is right or not. You're not using the mirror or the phone for that. You're using the mirror or the phone to look into the eyes of your higher self, which is actually you. So by doing some of these things, I realized that the higher self is so easily accessible. And I really wanted to share this on this podcast, because I think a lot of these things are such powerful tools. And I really want more and more people to be able to use them and not be scared of doing something wrong or needing guidance to do these things. These are not some things which require you to have outside assistance. These are things which are available to us from the day that we are born. And honestly, I think as we grow older, we forget how to access some of these, superpowers given to us because of socialization, because of, basically communities, families, religious structures, or community-based rules and regulations. But when we are born, we actually know how to access these sources very, very easily. Anyway, sorry for the digression. I want you to get back to accessing the power of the higher self and how it is so easy and it is so important and it is so powerful. So I hope you really found these tips useful and that you try them out in your life. And if you have lasted to this point of the podcast, what I would like to do now is to invite you to join me in my Facebook group, my Facebook page, which is Nidhi Bruce, or on my Instagram, which is Nidhi Bruce again. Or you can check out my website, connect with me. If you want, you can join my mailing list. Of course, subscribe to this podcast or my YouTube channel by the same name. And it would be a pleasure to have you along on this journey of self-discovery and growing our ability to experience life together. So thank you so much for joining me on this podcast episode. Do join back for the next episode. And take care of yourself. Have a fantastic, lovely day wherever you are in the world. Bye-bye.